Dad perfect revents. I woke up to the sound of muffled crying coming from our bathroom. When I opened that door, I saw my wife Beverly kneeling on the cold tile floor, surrounded by long strands of silver hair scattered everywhere. A hair clipper sat on the sink counter, still warm to the touch. Next to it was a handwritten note that made my blood run cold. Mom looks too old for the wedding video. Fixed it for more views. My name is Roger Pierce. I'm 58 years old, and I spent 30 years as an insurance investigator. I thought I'd seen every kind of fraud and deception people could dream up. I was wrong. Beverly wasn't crying out loud, just shaking as her hands touched her completely bald head. That hair had been growing for over 30 years. She'd sworn never to cut it after her mother passed away, keeping it as her last connection to those memories. Now it was gone, cut off and thrown on the floor like garbage. I picked up the clipper, still warm. This had just happened maybe 10 minutes ago. I looked around, the bathroom more carefully with my investigator's eye. Everything was too neat. The towels were folded perfectly. The window was cracked at the usual angle. This wasn't chaos after some accident. This was planned. On the vanity counter, I spotted Beverly's phone lying face down. When I flipped it over, the screen lit up, showing a video recording app. The live stream icon showed it had ended less than 15 minutes ago. The viewer count was already climbing past 50,000. That's when I understood what really happened here. Amanda, our daughter-in-law, hadn't just shaved my wife's head. She'd recorded the whole thing for her social media followers. I started looking more carefully and found what I was trained to find. A small wireless camera was tucked behind the tissue box, positioned at the perfect angle to capture Beverly's face as she looked in the mirror. The power cable was hidden behind towels. This wasn't some spur-of-the-moment idea. This was a setup. Beverly looked at me with panic in her eyes when she saw the camera in my hand. Roger, they can't show this to everyone. I removed the battery and slipped the camera into my pocket. Then I locked the bathroom door from inside, as if that could somehow protect her from what had already happened. You don't need to go out there right now, I told her. Let me handle this. I helped Beverly back to our bedroom and wrapped her in her thickest bathrobe. When I closed the door behind me, I could hear her start to cry. Not loud, just soft sobs that somehow made it worse. I walked down the hallway toward Neil and Amanda's room. Each step, I felt that familiar coldness settling in. The same feeling I used to get when I was about to bust someone for insurance fraud. When you know you've got them dead to rights, but you need to be smart about how you prove it. I could hear voices coming from their room. Amanda's laugh was sharp and excited. Neil's voice was lower, more nervous. The door was cracked open just enough that I could see them looking at a phone screen together. It might be a bit much, Neil was saying quietly, but if this goes viral, the money will be worth it. Amanda laughed. Relax. Old people always forgive family. Besides, we need this. The MLM isn't bringing in enough, and you know how much we owe on those property investments. I stood there listening, not shocked exactly, but getting confirmation of what I'd already suspected. This wasn't just cruelty, this was business. I walked away before they noticed me. I didn't want a confrontation yet. In my line of work, you learn that the best revenge comes from having all your evidence lined up perfectly before you make your move. Back in our bedroom, Beverly was sitting up against the headboard. She looked tired but more composed. "I'm okay," she said, though we both knew that wasn't really true. I sat down next to her. "I need you to trust me on something. I'm going to make this right, but I need to do it my way." She nodded. After 35 years of marriage, she knew when I had that investigator look in my eyes. I left Beverly to rest and went to my home office. The same office where I'd spent countless hours building fraud cases, following paper trails, connecting dots that seemed unrelated until you stepped back and saw the whole picture. First call was to my old partner at the insurance company, Jim, who now works fraud cases for the state attorney's office. "I need to report elder abuse and fraud," I said. "It's family, and it's complicated, but I've got evidence." Jim didn't ask a lot of questions. We'd worked together long enough that he trusted my judgment. "Bring me what you've got. We'll take a look." "There's something else," I said. "There's a wedding happening in 4 hours. I think they're planning more exploitation. Roger, if you're thinking about doing something at that wedding, nothing illegal, nothing that'll compromise your case, but I need to document whatever else they have planned." Next, I called Adult Protective Services explained the situation to their intake specialist. They scheduled an interview for the following week, but I told them this couldn't wait. Sir, we understand your concerns, but unless there's immediate physical danger, there is. Financial exploitation of vulnerable seniors. And I believe there are other victims. That got their attention. They agreed to have someone available by phone during the wedding, in case we needed immediate intervention. Then I got to work doing what I do best, following the money trail. Amanda's social media empire was bigger than I'd realized. Her Instagram had 200,000 followers. Her TikTok was pushing 500,000. She was selling some kind of anti-aging supplement line through a multi-level marketing company, targeting women over 50. The same demographic as my wife. I dug deeper into the financial records I could access. Amanda had been using Beverly's image in her promotional materials for months without permission. There were testimonials, supposedly from Beverly, about how these miracle supplements had transformed her life. Complete lies. The real kicker was when I found Amanda's business registration documents. She'd listed Beverly as a business partner and testimonial provider without Beverly's knowledge or consent. She'd been using my wife's teaching background and reputation to legitimize her scam operation. I pulled up Amanda's recent posts and started documenting everything. Screenshots of false claims about the supplements, images of Beverly used without permission, comments from elderly women asking about Beverly's amazing transformation. Each one was another piece of evidence. But what really made my blood boil was discovering Amanda's private coaching group. For $299 a month, she was teaching other influencers how to leverage family relationships for content gold. The course materials talked about identifying vulnerable family members and creating authentic emotional moments for maximum engagement. Beverly wasn't just a victim. She was case study number 1 in Amanda's playbook for exploiting elderly relatives. I found receipts showing Amanda had made over $80,000 in the past year from this scheme. Meanwhile, Neil and Amanda were constantly asking us for money, claiming they were struggling with their real estate investments. I started calling the phone numbers I found in Amanda's client database. Most went to voicemail, but I managed to reach 3 elderly women who'd purchased Amanda's supplements after seeing Beverly's fake testimonials. "Oh, Beverly seems like such a sweet lady," said Margaret, a 73-year-old widow from Ohio. "I ordered the full 6-month package because she looked so healthy and vibrant. But I haven't seen any results yet." "How much did you spend?" I asked. $1,200. But Amanda assured me it would change my life just like it did Beverly's. Dorothy, 68, from Arizona, had a similar story. She'd spent $800 on supplements and another $400 on Amanda's personal coaching calls where Amanda supposedly shared Beverly's secret routine. "I kept asking when I could talk to Beverly directly," Dorothy said. Amanda always had excuses, said Beverly was too busy or traveling. The third woman, Ruth, 71, had spent nearly $2,000 and was starting to get suspicious when the supplements made her sick. I tried calling the customer service number, but it just goes to Amanda's personal voicemail, and when I asked for my money back, she said all sales were final. I documented every conversation, every receipt, every false claim. By the time I was done, I had enough evidence to put Amanda away for years. But I wanted more than just legal consequences. I wanted public accountability. I made one more call to my buddy at the local news station. Sarah had covered some of my bigger fraud cases when I was still working. "I've got a story for you," I said. "Elder abuse meets social media's exploitation. It's happening today, and if you want to be there when it all comes out, meet me at the Riverside Manor at 2 p.m. Roger, what are you planning? Justice and ratings gold. Trust me on this one." The wedding was scheduled for 3 p.m. Perfect timing. I went back to check on Beverly. She was up, looking at herself in the mirror. I'd brought her a silk scarf from our closet, one she'd never worn. When I wrapped it around her head, it didn't hide what had happened, but it gave her back some dignity. "Are you ready?" I asked. "What are you planning?" "Justice." Before we left for the venue, I made one final call to Jim at the state attorney's office. "I've got everything you need," I told him. "Financial records, victim statements, evidence of ongoing fraud. But I need you to be ready to move fast. Roger, whatever you're planning to do at this wedding, I'm going to give you the best arrest footage you've ever had. Just make sure you're there with handcuffs ready." The venue was buzzing with activity when we arrived. Amanda was already in full performance mode, phone in hand, greeting guests and recording everything. She was wearing a wireless microphone, treating the whole wedding like a live broadcast. Neil was nervous, I could tell. He kept glancing at Beverly and me, probably wondering if we were going to cause a scene. He should have been wondering about bigger problems. I spotted Sarah from the news station, setting up in the back with her camera crew. Amanda noticed them too, and assumed they were there to cover her dream wedding content. She actually walked over and introduced herself, offering them exclusive access to her special day. "This is going to be such an inspiring story," Amanda gushed to Sarah, "from struggling newlyweds to social media success, all thanks to family support." Sarah just nodded and smiled, not mentioning that she was there for a very different kind of story. The ceremony started right on time. I sat in the front row with Beverly, playing the role of the proud father-in-law. But I was really just waiting for the right moment. My phone was buzzing with text updates from Jim and his team, who were positioned outside the venue. During the vows, Amanda kept glancing at her phone to monitor the live stream comments. Even during her own wedding ceremony, she was performing for the camera. Neil looked uncomfortable with all the filming, but he went along with it. When it came time for speeches, Amanda took the microphone. She started talking about family, about new beginnings, about how excited she was to share this special day with all her followers. She had her phone positioned to capture every word. "And I want to thank my new in-laws," she said, gesturing toward us. "Especially Beverly, who has been such an inspiration for my wellness journey. She's proof that age is just a number when you have the right supplements and mindset." The camera focused on Beverly, who managed a weak smile. I could see the comments flooding in on Amanda's live stream. Thousands of viewers asking about Beverly's transformation secrets. That was my cue. I stood up and walked to the front. Amanda handed me the microphone with a big smile, expecting some heartfelt father of the groom speech that would add emotional content to her stream. "Thanks, Amanda. Before we go any further, I think everyone here, and everyone watching online, needs to know what kind of person we are really celebrating today." Her smile faltered slightly, but the camera kept rolling. The live stream viewer count was climbing past 75,000. I pulled out my phone and connected it to the venue's projection system. The first thing that appeared on the big screen was the hidden camera footage from our bathroom that morning. No sound needed. The image of Amanda shaving Beverly's head while recording said everything. Gasps went through the crowd. Several people stood up. Amanda's phone was still streaming live, and the comments were exploding with shock and outrage. "This morning," I continued, "my daughter-in-law drugged my wife with sleeping medication, shaved off all her hair, and recorded it for social media content. But that's not even the worst part. The next slides showed Amanda's MLM scheme documents, the fake testimonials using Beverly's name, and the financial records showing how she'd been exploiting elderly women for months. Amanda has been running an elder abuse operation, using my wife's image and reputation to sell fake supplements to vulnerable seniors. She's made over $80,000 in the past year alone from this scam." I clicked to the next slide, showing screenshots of Amanda's coaching program. She's also been teaching other influencers how to exploit their own elderly family members for content. For $299 a month, she'll teach you how to identify vulnerable relatives and turn their pain into profit. Amanda was backing away from the microphone, but there was nowhere to go. The news cameras were rolling. Her live stream was still going with over 100,000 viewers now, and every guest was recording with their phones. "Let me introduce you to some of Amanda's victims," I said, pulling up photos and testimonials I'd collected. Margaret, 73, spent $1,200 on fake supplements after seeing my wife's fraudulent testimonial. Dorothy, 68, paid $800 for supplements and coaching that made her sick. Ruth, 71, lost nearly $2,000 and is still trying to get her money back. Neil tried to step forward. "Dad, you can't do this. Not today. Your wife committed multiple felonies against my wife," I said into the microphone. "Elder abuse, fraud, identity theft, and drugging someone without consent. She's been running a criminal enterprise using our family name. The only question is whether you were just stupid or actively involved." That's when Jim walked in with 2 other officers from the DA's office. Perfect timing, just like we'd planned. "Amanda Pierce," Jim announced loudly enough for the microphones to pick up. "You're under arrest for elder abuse, wire fraud, identity theft, and conspiracy to commit financial crimes against vulnerable adults. The wedding reception became a crime scene investigation. Guests were interviewed as witnesses. Amanda's MLM materials were seized as evidence. Her social media accounts were frozen pending investigation. The live stream was still running as Amanda was handcuffed, broadcasting her arrest to over 150,000 viewers in real time. Neil stood there watching his new wife get handcuffed, finally understanding that his father wasn't just some harmless retiree who would stay quiet to keep the peace. The reality of what Amanda had been doing was sinking in, and I could see the fear in his eyes as he realized how deep he was in this mess. "Neil Pierce," Jim continued, "you're also under arrest as an accessory to elder abuse and fraud." "Dad, please," Neil started, but I was already walking away with Beverly. We left before they finished processing the scene. We'd done what we came to do. The live stream had captured everything: Amanda's arrest, the evidence of her crimes, the testimonials from her victims. By the time we got home, the video had been shared thousands of times across social media platforms. The story exploded overnight. Major news networks picked it up. "Social media influencer arrested at own wedding for elder abuse" became the headline that dominated the news cycle for weeks. What really surprised me was how many other families came forward with similar stories. Amanda wasn't the only influencer exploiting elderly relatives for content and profit. The FBI started a task force specifically to investigate what they called family exploitation schemes in the social media space. 3 months later, Amanda was sentenced to 2 years in prison and ordered to pay $125,000 in restitution to her victims. The MLM company shut down after the state attorney's investigation revealed it was essentially a pyramid scheme targeting vulnerable seniors. Her social media empire collapsed overnight. All her accounts were permanently banned. The coaching program was shut down, and everyone who'd paid for it got their money back through a class action lawsuit. Neil lost his real estate license due to the association with the fraud case. He pleaded guilty to accessory charges and got 18 months probation plus 500 hours of community service at senior centers. The judge thought it was appropriate that he spend time actually helping elderly people instead of exploiting them. We don't talk much anymore. Some bridges burn completely when family betrays family. Last I heard, he was working construction and trying to rebuild his life. Amanda filed for divorce from prison, taking half of nothing since all their assets were seized for restitution. Beverly's hair is growing back slowly. She keeps it shorter now, more practical. She says it feels like a fresh start. The trauma took a while to heal, but she's stronger now. She started speaking at community centers about recognizing scams and exploitation. We moved to a senior community with better security and no solicitation policies. We're done being anyone's easy targets. The community has strict rules about filming or photographing residents without consent, and they actually enforce them. I started volunteering with Adult Protective Services, helping them investigate financial crimes against the elderly. Turns out, there's a lot of Amanda types out there, and they're getting more sophisticated every year. Social media has made it easier than ever to target vulnerable people. The case became a landmark prosecution. It was the first time someone was charged specifically for family member exploitation using social media platforms. The law Amanda was convicted under is now called the Beverly Protection Act in our state, and it's been adopted by 12 other states so far. I've done interviews for news stations, senior centers, and community groups about recognizing elder abuse scams. Beverly comes with me sometimes, showing people that you can survive these attacks on your dignity and come out stronger. The wedding video, the one showing Amanda's arrest, has been viewed over 10 million times. It's used in training programs for law enforcement and social workers to show how elder abuse can happen even within families, and how to recognize the warning signs. Margaret, Dorothy, and Ruth, the 3 elderly women I spoke with during my investigation, all got their money back, and then some. They also joined our speaking circuit, sharing their stories to help other seniors avoid similar scams. Dorothy actually became one of Beverly's closest friends. They meet for coffee twice a week and laugh about how they survived Amanda's miracle supplements. People ask me if I regret destroying my son's marriage and exposing our family problems so publicly. The answer is no. When someone preys on vulnerable people for money, especially when that someone is supposed to be family, There have to be consequences. My job was never to enable his bad choices or protect him from the results of his actions. My job was to protect the woman who stood by me for 35 years and make sure other families didn't go through what we went through. The hardest part wasn't the public attention or the legal proceedings. It was accepting that my son had chosen money over his mother's dignity, that he'd stood by and watched his wife drug and humiliate the woman who raised him, all for social media views and MLM profits. But I learned something important through all this. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do is make sure there are real consequences for real harm. Family loyalty doesn't mean letting family members get away with crimes. If you're listening to this story and you recognize something similar happening to someone you know, don't stay quiet. Document everything, call the authorities, and remember that protecting vulnerable people is more important than keeping family secrets. Amanda thought she was smart, exploiting elderly people who wouldn't fight back or couldn't navigate the legal system. She was wrong about that. She thought family would always forgive and stay silent. She was wrong about that too. Sometimes justice takes time, but it comes. And sometimes it comes with handcuffs, at your own wedding, broadcast live to 150,000 people. That's what justice looks like in the real world. The most dangerous predators aren't strangers in dark alleys. They're the ones who sit at your dinner table and call you family while they plan your exploitation. When you spend your life protecting others, you learn that silence isn't golden. It's the weapon that enables every abuser who counts on good people staying quiet.